Ready? I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting of the Niles Main District Library on Wednesday, March 19th, 2025 at 6:02 p.m. 7:02 p.m. Jinx myself.
Okay. Trustee Kadir is absent with prior notice. And Trustee Derblick?
Present.
Trustee Schoenfeld here. Treasurer Gattello?
Present.
Secretary Rosansky? Here. Vice President Trunkel?
Here.
And President Keenan?
Here.
I'm doing it.
You're in
Stand for
good
the
form
pledge.
today, huh?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You would believe how many pens I went through today.
All right, for public comment, I would like to call Elliot Osherman.
Good evening, Board. This is Elliot Osherman. As of Monday morning, the process of early voting has started. Voting can be done at the Niles Village Hall, or the lobby of the Des Plaines Library, or the Glenview Village Hall between now and Monday, March 31st. Regular voting can be done at an individual's regular polling place on Tuesday, April 1st, from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Even though there are 2 library board candidates running unopposed for 2 slots, it is extremely important for library community members to vote to express the desire to remain committed to progress being made by the library, to remain relevant to its purpose to engage, inform, enrich, and educate, and for the board to work for the continued benefit of the entirety of the library community and its constituents. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else in the room like to make public comment? No? I have not received anything else in writing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have some questions, so do I need to bring that to your attention since according to this, if you have questions, they have to be pulled out?
Yeah.
We need a second first before we can.
Okay, I just didn't know how you wanted to do that.
I'll second it so that we can then discuss.
Suzanne already seconded.
Oh, you already
Yeah.
said, I didn't hear you, sorry.
It's okay.
So Carolyn, Howard, I guess it should go. Do you have questions on every item in?
C, I have questions on C, E, and F.
Okay, so
I
then,
have D.
so then, you have B? So B,
All right, so
C,
let's start
E.
at the beginning. Any questions on A, approval of minutes?
No.
No. B, payment of the bills?
Yes.
Go for it. These are questions that couldn't have been asked before the meeting?
Correct.
No.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to piggyback on your question regarding the cost of the photo video for the Community Engagement and Marketing Department on page 7. In reference to this question, I'd like to know what type of brand that we're actually purchasing, the model number, and how big the posters are going to be actually made on this machine. And with the cost of this machine, the cartridges will be over $100 per an actual cartridge. And what type of usage are we going to be utilizing this for the marketing department since we have so many signs up at this time?
So first of all, I would like to pause and just for the sake of the public, reiterate that President Keene asked about a purchase of about $8,500. I believe it's $8,488 in the bills to B&H Photo, and that was to replace the commercial printer in marketing. As far as the detailed questions you just asked, Trustee Schoenfeld, I will need time to prepare that answer, and we'll have it available for you in the future.
Okay, and then also I was just wondering why we didn't purchase a used machine as well, because we can actually purchase used machines in reference to that.
It affects the longevity of the equipment that we have. The last printer that we had in the marketing department lasted for 9 years. If you purchase used equipment, there is a greater chance that the equipment will break down earlier.
And probably doesn't come with a warranty.
Probably doesn't.
Some do.
No, some of them do. Because we
I
have some at my
fully
work.
trust the process that Rich follows to look for equipment that we've used in the past, as well as it relates to the training that staff already has for the equipment that they've used in the past. There are costs sunk into trainings and softwares and things of that nature that replacing with similar equipment negates as far as that goes. But as far as your more detailed questions, again, I'll have to get better answers moving forward.
And then also I have questions regarding to the office supplies. I'd like to know why we purchase so many different office supplies from different vendors and why we cannot utilize just one particular vendor and get cost efficiency on that.
Because Margaret was actually trained previously to look for as much cost savings as possible through office supplies, which means we look at different vendors for the best cost for what we're purchasing. So we can stop that practice, but it means that we will actually get rid of some of our cost savings, but it would increase efficiency. So it would depend on the process that the full board wants us to follow.
And then also in reference to the office supplies, don't we think we should actually have a spreadsheet where it actually pertains to the volume of actual items being utilized?
Absolutely not. That is an efficiency cost sunk fallacy, actually. So if you are, I have actually been told in the past that staff were asked to count sticky notes and things of that nature. And the cost of the staff having to do that is so much waste that the library does not need to go through. We are mindful of the supplies we currently have. We always check in with our staff to make sure we don't have comparable supplies before we order anything. We always offer more cost-effective alternatives before we order anything. So we do go through that process. But having an entire spreadsheet and watching every single sticky note that's used by staff is inefficient and ineffective use of staff time and staff funds.
Anything else on payment of the bills?
Oh, I have, are you finished?
Mhm.
Okay, regarding office supplies, trustee Schoenfeld suggested going with one company to get cheaper pricing. For Margaret to go through several vendors every time she's ordering something, that's quite time consuming.
Oh, I completely agree. I'd love to change that.
If you reach out
Mhm.
to the different vendors as far as purchasing office supplies, there's a process that you would follow. They would be interested in what are your yearly purchases. They would see what items you purchased, maybe the total cost, and they would tell you, in order to get a contract with them, what they would expect from you. And you could do, there are several office supply places here, and I would suggest you consider that for next year. And then Margaret will already have one place to go, and the prices will be the cheapest you can get, but it takes a little more legwork up in front.
So I will say that doesn't guarantee that we will get the cheapest cost every single time. It guarantees that when we're under contract, whatever company we work with, whether it's Staples, whether it's Amazon, whether it's, Margaret does a lot of work with Garvey's because they're local. So what she's usually doing, especially with Garvey's, is saying, this is the price we are getting from Staples or what have you. Can you give us a lower cost so we can support the local community? And usually they will give us a lower cost and we support the local community. However, if we go with one vendor and that's fine, my concern would be, again, I would get questions such as this on the back end saying, did you go through and price out every single item? So I would just like direction from the full board.
Okay, can I just
Yeah.
answer to that? Because
Sure.
I've done this for years. What you do when you create a contract with a vendor, all of this is part of what your expectation is for being their customer. And this can all be included. If you're requesting that you'll go with them, but they need to guarantee the lowest price, that's on them.
Oh, sure.
So
But
there
that would be
is-
my concern is that,
So there-
again, I've been told in the past that board members have specifically gone to Margaret herself, not since I've been here, and told her, is this particular item the lowest cost item you could get? Because I looked on XYZ, Amazon, what have you, and it's not that low today. And so I'm trying to increase efficiency as much as possible while also supporting the local community vendor in Garvey's and respect Margaret's time. So,
Exactly.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Margaret, is this when Cindy was here that you were instructed to do these things? Was it because of
very
Carolyn and
specific,
Joe?
broken down to different
No,
departments.
I never
yeah.
requested
That
that.
was when Cindy was here.
Okay,
Yeah, it was
so
all
during the
broken down.
last 2 years, not this 2 years, but you were instructed to do this prior to her being, Valerie being here, because of the board that was here at that time. So we
The
have already
board had
gone over
nothing
this.
to
I'm
do
not
with
asking
that.
you a question. And she just said
Well,
that,
I'm
yes,
responding to your
she just
accusation.
answered my question, saying that, yes, it was during that time.
It doesn't matter. You said, was it under me? I had nothing
I
to do with this.
mentioned you and Joe, one
It
to
doesn't
Cindy.
matter. I'm here to
Yes.
defend myself. I'm getting a little tired of these
Yes, so am I.
accusations.
So anyway, the point is that Margaret was instructed to do this because of what you guys were requesting at that
Did
time.
we not find something
And so
wrong with that?
now, I don't think, the point is also.
What is the point?
The point is also that this is a discussion that should be happening as a board so that we can instruct the director what to do.
Exactly.
And we're not having that discussion now. This is,
We don't have
consent agenda, so
discussions
let's
as
please
a
move on.
board about anything.
let's
That's
please
the
move on. Do you
problem.
have any other questions
I
on
have
payment of
many
the bills?
questions. So as
So
far
much
as
to do.
office supplies, I strongly would urge
We
you
understand that.
to work
Please
with
move
the
on.
board to figure out how to get a
Please move
contract to better serve the
Please move on.
residents. The next question I
Thank you.
have is regarding the B&H photo video copier for $8,488. I understand you purchased a new one because I guess it just stopped working. My question was, did you perform an analysis to obtain the yearly in-house costs for posters? Apparently that's what this copy machine can do, to find out what it would cost us with, say, the current machine you had that doesn't work anymore, and then compare that to going to a printing company who can help us with whatever your other printing needs are. Because I'm not sure if I'm understanding, for $8,000, $8,488, this printer only prints posters?
No.
Okay,
This is
so-
our commercial printer that prints our flyers, our posters.
Okay, well, I'm reading the
our
description
outlines.
that you provided,
Mhm.
in-house cost for posters. So, what I would like to know is, did you do an analysis to see, would it be cheaper to take this task away from marketing and bring it to one of the many printers in the area?
No, I do not want to affect the staffing levels that we currently have by having gone through that process. Plus, with the printer having broken down, it would have stopped us from being able to do promotional materials in a timely manner when we needed it. We did
I'm
look at other
confused, that's not
equipment.
answering my question.
Is this
It
a
is
question
answering your
from the
question.
No,
board?
did you not, it is
No.
my question
Is
as
it-
a trustee.
Would the board like me to do this type of analysis and answer this question, or is it this just from trustee?
Yeah,
Carroll?
my question
I think
is,
that the
have you
board-
done an
It's a
It's
analysis?
fine without, we don't need it, thank
If
you.
I may repeat it,
No,
because
I
I
think
want to
we're
make
gonna
sure
move
it's
on,
on the
because it's not a
video.
question from the
My
full board.
question was, you don't find it necessary,
No, the
nor
answer
does
was
this
no.
board, to do an analysis
You
of
do need an
in-house printing
analysis.
versus a vendor to save money.
Let's do a vote
Okay,
right now,
thank you.
although this
Then
is
my
something
next
we're not
question
supposed to
is-
vote on. Majority of us say no.
My next question is, the many times I had gone up into the marketing department, when Sasha was here, I noticed several pieces of equipment. And I'll be honest with you, I don't understand really what our capabilities are as a marketing department. Is there anything else we can do in-house that we are currently doing that I'm unaware of, besides posters, and you said a few other things? Do we have the capability to print anything else? I'm just curious.
I think that everything that we're doing is in the interest of saving money as much as we can.
No,
So
I'm
I
not
don't think that
talking
we
about
need to,
saving money.
I don't think we need
We're
to be
talking about
questioning.
machinery.
I wish
that
you
might
would
be-
stop interrupting me and let me answer my question. I'm
I'm
asking the
trying to
director.
avoid 2 hours of your questions right now for the board
And
meeting.
please
Well,
stop
and
repeating
unless the
the
question-
same questions.
Unless we are directing the director to
anyway,
do something as a
Mike,
board, then we
then
don't need to
can
continue
you,
with it. Yes,
When you
Valerie?
have a moment,
My recommendation is to make a request for this to be on the agenda for a future meeting because it is a larger discussion item.
what
That
item
is
is
not
that?
a particular billing question. Do you have a particular question about
It has to
a
do
bill?
with purchasing an $8,000 printer, what its capabilities are, and do we have anything else in marketing? Because if we do, is that something we need to reevaluate
This is not
before
a
it breaks down?
conversation for this time.
Seriously, that
This is a
is,
It is, it
discussion. No,
definitely,
it's not.
okay, and if I may clarify, the reason it is a question for me today, because I am not part of this board's discussions once we leave this boardroom. I'm not part of
Okay, that has
your
nothing to do with
messaging.
what we're
I'm not
talking about
part of
right
your
now.
I
emails.
come one
And you
meeting a
come to
month.
these meetings with decisions already made,
Let's keep
so
it
I'm
to the
making comments.
Keep it to the
Now,
topic.
I'm tired of you making those
so my next,
accusations.
they're not accusations.
If-
Yes, they are, because I don't talk to them about
So-
anything pertaining to
Let's
this
please
during
stick
the
to the
month.
topic. If you have a question about a particular cost.
Okay, so that was,
Excuse me,
that was.
and what the cost is and what it is for, you may proceed. If it is about why didn't you do this or how are you doing that, that's a conversation for a different time.
Not really, but I'm moving on to the next one. Let's see, 4C Treasurer's Report. Trustee Batalo, if I may ask you,
So are we all good on payment of the bills then? We're not,
I'm done.
okay, so payment of the bills is done, okay.
So the next one would be
Trying to figure out what my motion is. at this point.
4C, the Treasurer's Report. Trustee Batalo, I have a question regarding investment. Previously, you mentioned that the library had a great deal of money, and in reviewing this balance sheet, I noticed there are $15,169,070 in investments. Does that represent the total amount of library funding that's being invested?
No, that's,
So, no, currently, we've had a lot of the portfolio that had matured. So currently, we have about $10 million in cash. And when it gets to my report, I'm going to bring up suggestions to the board with regards to options that we could possibly use to invest that $10 million.
So then, according to this balance sheet, we don't have $15 million in investments, but $5 million?
if.
No, so the investments come in various forms.
What's the
And-
total amount the library is investing? What is the total amount of the library's investments? Shouldn't that be on here and then another line for cash?
So if you look at the balance sheet,
Mm-hmm.
the balance sheet has the overall on the types of investments that we have. And if you look, basically there's, we use Fifth Third currently. We have money markets, business accounts. We have to have an account for payroll. And then, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our CDs and municipal bonds that we held, they're matured already. Meaning that we have approximately $10 million cash right now, of that 15 million available to reinvest.
Okay, so my question is, when I read this balance sheet, I am unaware that we have $10 million available in cash because we're showing a negative of 4 million, which totally doesn't
Where do you
relate to what
see-
you're saying. Look at cash.
Uh-huh.
And that was gonna be my next, that's gonna be my next question, but back to investments. Is there a way that when we come to a meeting and we get a copy of the balance sheet, we could know for this date,
Sure.
what is the amount in investments?
Well, I can provide you, now it's gonna be a very detailed report.
No, I just want
and
a
it's-
total, I want the dollar amount to be accurate.
That's the balance sheet here.
It's 15 million, but you're claiming we only have, we have 10 million of that as cash.
Yes.
Okay, but that's not reflected here.
Well, I don't understand how you don't see it. It
Show
does
me where it
say
is and I
total
can see it.
cash and investments, 10,719,186.
Okay, how much is cash?
The 10 million.
It says total cash and investments is
Yes.
10 million. So why is there a negative 4 million next to cash?
That's how much we spent in February.
So if you spend 4, so then then this total cash and investments is, the 10 represents cash, not total cash and investments.
Right. And if you really would like to find out.
I just want to know that, I just want to know when I look at this,
Uh-huh.
we don't have $15 million in investments. And I wouldn't have known that until you brought that up. I thought it was a large amount, so that's why I'm asking. So it's minus 10 million, which is cash. All
Correct.
right, thank you for that question. And then.
And I will just add, if you're interested in specific types of investments that we have, I welcome a conversation with you. You
Oh,
and I
no,
can
I'm not concerned about that at this point, because I believe you're still going through Fifth Third, correct?
Correct.
All right, and then my next question is, I recall you suggesting that the library, to move their investments to the state of Illinois funds. And I was wondering, what is the status of the library investing in state funds or other investment considerations? Where do we stand with that?
So we were not able to meet as a committee, a finance committee, to discuss a timetable to sit down and plan the options, have representatives come in and present their products to us. So
Meaning the government, the state of Illinois?
no, I mean, we certainly, the state of Illinois is
Well, that
one
was your
option.
specific suggestion, and you also sent us a webinar, which I don't know who had the time to watch it, but I did participate, so I didn't know, are we moving forward? What was the decision
Well, we
based
never
on that?
discussed it.
That's
together,
the
so
point,
of course
that
we did
we
not.
did not have availability to meet as a committee. And so that's what we need to do.
Okay, so right now,
Establish-
it hasn't gone anywhere?
Nothing has changed.
Okay.
All our investments continue with Fifth Third.
Okay,
And the balance sheet is accurate in terms of just what we're reporting.
well, just based on the way you described it, yes, unfortunately, when you look at these numbers, they're not as accurate as you would think.
Right, and I
But
understand that.
thanks for the
Sure,
explanation. I have one other question about this. I would like to encourage this board
Is this a
to have
question?
a public hearing to inform the taxpayers about your
This
interest
is
to
not a
invest
question.
this money in state funds, which
This is
you
not
had
a
just
question.
spoken.
This
And
is
other
not a
areas
question.
to obtain their
Not a
input,
question. Keep going.
especially during this risky time. I just feel like that would help
Thank you.
community
Move on.
feel like they're
Thank you.
participating.
Move on. That's not a question.
Madam President, may I just respond? I think this is important because of just how the economic situation is. Understand this, that it is wise for us as a governing board to meet as a committee,
Absolutely.
establish amongst ourselves an understanding of how we're going to move as a guidance, and then bring it up to the full board for consideration and a vote. We haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
And I would recommend for you, and as I mentioned to the committee folks, to please give me your availability so that I can look at my
Do
schedule.
you have a
and then,
financial committee?
yes, we did. Suzanne and Valerie are the committee people here. And so what I'm looking for is schedules.
Well,
so
I'm
that-
sure they'll be glad to respond. I know this is the second time you're asking.
Yes, and hopefully I'll get a response, because I would like to meet as a committee to present some options. I have quite a number of ideas, because the market is volatile,
Well, I've
extremely
heard your
volatile.
suggestions reviewing previous meetings, so I know you brought it to the board.
Yes.
Several of them.
And unfortunately,
for
I
that.
did not get a response that was suitable, where we could actually agree to a meeting date. And it's frustrating in that sense.
No, I understand.
And I hear your concern about, having the sense that not all of us are part of conversations. And I want to make sure that I don't fall into that.
Category.
pitfall. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. But I still think it's important with such a large amount of money being invested to at least open it up to the public, to let them know that you're interested in what they have to say. The decision will still lie with this board. I just think that's important. And then also remember, another suggestion for this board, you could provide a levy abatement to the taxpayers.
Okay.
when
That's
you
something that we
realize,
could discuss in
So
committee.
just add that as well.
Thank you.
All right, and then I have one last question.
Is it really a question?
Or is it a statement?
Okay, this was about cash, which you already explained. All right, thank you, trustee Battello, for
You're
your
welcome. Thank you.
responses.
Thank you, Roberta.
So,
All right, are we moving on to,
we have to vote on it. So now,
No.
oh,
I do have some items to add to the director's report, if possible. Okay. First, I would actually like to have Victoria introduce one of our new employees who's here with us
You're
tonight.
like, what did I bring into?
Hello, everybody. Our newest employee is Hope Kramer, and she is the Material Services Supervisor, backfilled my position. And she comes to us with a lot of cataloging knowledge and also front-facing knowledge, so she can have a more, or a broad view of how things are working and how they're connected. She's already come up with fresh ideas, and we've been working together already, working with the staff, and she went to a supervisor's meeting, and everything so far is fantastic. So I want to welcome you. Did you want to say anything about?
Sure, yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to be part of the team. Everyone's been extremely welcoming. Material Services is a fantastic department, and I'm really excited to see what we can do together. Just a little bit about myself. I've been a public librarian for over 13 years. My experience has been primarily in reference services and technical services, so I'm looking forward to being able to help kind of bridge that knowledge gap that sometimes exists between departments, because I have that experience on both sides of that. So it helps to be able to explain the catalog, but also what patrons are looking for, and I'm really looking forward to see what I can do here. So thanks for having me.
I did get a question before the meeting from Trustee Schoenfeld about the total cost for Fandom Fest, which was $4,357.05. The number of people who checked in at the welcome table that day for the event were 452, but the total number of people in the library that day was 812. So whichever number you look at, it was a fantastically successful event that went really well, depending upon, again, which number you use. And we typically use the 812 because the event was building wide. So everyone who came to the building experienced some part of the event. The cost per person was about $5 for that event that served so many people.
Well, and I'll piggyback on your answer there. I was here for multiple hours. My daughter was a volunteer here, one of the 40 volunteers that we had as well. I know President Keene was here. I know Trustee Rosansky was here. To actually understand what the cost is for the events, you have to come see the events. And to see what was part of it, and to see, you know, I know there's a staff member that was here till 10 o'clock at night the night before, and then was here at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. And the hours that were put into this, and the way that this event was put on, this is the first time I've ever been at Fandom Fest. And to be totally honest, I'm not a Star Wars guy or a big comic guy, but to see the kids that were, and to see the people that were, and to see how awesome the staff was, getting dressed up and being part of it and keeping everybody entertained and interactive, that's what we're here for. That's what the staff is here for. That's what this building is here for. That's what this is about. So if we're going to spend $4,000 and spend $5 per person and have 40 volunteers just for 800 people to come in this building in a day, I'll take that every day of the week.
It was fantastic.
I've been to multiple Fandom Fest since I've been a board member for a while, and this, in my opinion, was the best.
It was really good.
My favorite moment was I was sitting at the Commons desk, and I looked up, and the elevator door opened, and the Dalek rolled out. Came all the way to my face, saying "exterminate" all the way to my hand. I got it all on tape.
My favorite part was actually sitting in a Dalek. That was totally cool.
Yeah, it was
It
very
was fun.
Especially as a Whoite, it was cool.
And then the last thing I want to say is I'm actually going to have Annie distribute something or talk about something related to the community survey that we have out for the library strategic planning. We've designed a mailer that was going out that we'd also like help with from the trustees distributing within the community and encouraging people to participate. So,
No problem.
One copy of each. These are kind of backups.
Okay.
We're going over it with committee members tomorrow.
over on the
Podium.
Yeah, podium.
And I can submit this so that we can put it online too if people are interested. So we've got a couple different versions, some with photos, some with text, and then versions for in the building, just with the QR code much larger. So a little explanation of what it is, and then this will go out to all the households in our district.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And we're also working with staff on translations to Spanish, Polish, and Urdu, which is our biggest three languages other than English spoken in our community.
Cool.
That's great.
Can I get copies one day next week?
Yep.
They'll
Yeah.
distribute at the senior center. Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you
you.
so much.
All right, I
Just
had
let me know what day.
some questions. Oh, did you have questions, Patty?
No, I just said let me know what day. Thank you.
Okay, yes, let's see,
Are we
regarding
voting?
the director's report,
Tuesday.
you mentioned, I think you already went. But when I read it, it looks like you're going, but I think this retreat took place in March. That must be the one
It was
you
this
just
past
went to,
weekend. I
correct?
did.
And it said that it focused on budgets.
Mhm.
Now, I realize we just had Meristem advisors here. They were hired for $5,000 to provide necessary budget training to you and the newly elected trustees.
Mhm.
And I was wondering, what in addition was this Rockford retreat able to provide regarding our library budget?
Sure. So they specifically talked about the levy process. It is always important to have continuing education as the budget and levy comes up every single year. And this, just to, for the sake of the public and the rest of the board, this retreat costs nowhere near the $5,000 for Meristem advisors to come in and train the board. This costs a little over $300 for me to attend this retreat, which also focused on networking opportunities with other directors where I could see how they do their levies and see how they have approached things like the new certificate to let the county know that you are under levying on purpose if you happen to do that, because that's a newer thing. So
Right, I've
the
seen that.
value of having that conversation with other library directors was something I couldn't bring into a boardroom and was really important to me, so that when we go through that process and when I go through that process, I have different perspectives to share with the board. It was also a different vendor that we haven't used before. He actually reinforced a lot of what Meristem advisors did tell us. And so that's also valuable to know that other libraries and other professionals are following the same processes when we make these decisions.
So it was a financial
Dieters and
analyst
Todd.
that gave this, it wasn't the library.
Dieters and Todd was the professional that led that part
Okay,
of
so
the.
there was, I see, I was thinking, was this a conversation just amongst library employees? Would you
No.
take that as, okay, I see what you're saying.
But there were, I believe it was a total of 23 other library directors there, part of the training and conversation.
Okay, so the levy process is closed, so I guess everyone was bringing up how they handled the filing of that levy document.
The
Is that what it
filing,
was?
how
Okay.
they propose and share information with the board about the process, and what the cost would be potentially per household if you choose different types of levies, different spreadsheets that people use. We share resources. It's very valuable.
Yeah, that would be nice if you could get a connection, because I understand that since you've been here, and I know Cindy Rademacher handled all this, but apparently you were unable to locate any of it, and that's unfortunate, because there's so much that should be in that office that could help you see how things have been done to make some of your job easier. Okay, then I had a question
I don't
about.
think that it's that Valerie is lacking in being able to
Program
find things, it's just that they
monthly-
aren't there. Let's not throw her under the bus.
Pardon me? The next item is monthly program statistics. I wanted to mention, I actually had reviewed a couple of years of these, and I noticed the monthly program statistics report is missing column 2, which used to be called presenter cost, which was added because it was especially helpful for trustees to review the cost of a program and then see the attendees and have a discussion about the outcomes and what we might want to do going forward. But to Trustee Schoenfeld's question, she had asked you for the total cost of Fandom Fest, which obviously is another program in this report. I would like to suggest the possibility of adding that column that was titled presenter cost / total program cost. So everyone can see what it costs and what the outcome was, and maybe it can open recommendations from the board, because everyone here has a different level of experience, and a lot of them, us, really work with a lot of, public entities and bringing community members together. I just feel like it would be a better conversation that would help all of us be part of, giving you data or information that could help you. Because
So
we
you're
seem to
asking if
miss
the board
that.
wants to give Valerie a different direction for the report?
I'm making a suggestion, because it was valid in the past, it certainly is valid now. So I'm not asking the board to do anything, it's my questions to Valerie. So how she relates to you and who makes those decisions, President Keene, is up to you. I'm just bringing these points up.
Carolyn, can I ask you a question, please? It's my understanding you're one board member, and a decision like this to change something and give our director direction should be according to all the board, not just one board member.
Okay,
Thank you.
Trustee Rosansky, just to clarify, I am not giving our director direction.
Well,
I
it
am
sounds like
making a
it's me,
suggestion about what used to be here and why it was utilized and the purpose. The decision always lies with all of you. So please don't take offense.
Okay.
That's all I have for you, Valerie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Let's take a vote on the consent agenda, please.
Okay, I have 4F, communication. That's not her report, right?
No,
It's
but
separate?
There's no report.
Okay, I have a communication I wanted to bring up.
That would be on the other one.
That would be under trustee reports, it's
Oh.
still under consent agenda.
Actually, it's a communication that I received from you. I wanted to thank you for the email that came out regarding a resident's comment about a satellite location. And I guess, one of your, was it one of your employees noticed it? Annie, right? And I guess brought it to your attention,
On
and you
marketing
shared that with
department.
us, which I think is important. This particular resident is against satellite location. She says it would be a tremendous tax burden. But what I was wondering is, this is a resident's comment, and when you're going into your strategic planning stage, where I know this is a possibility and so many other things. I was wondering if you would include her comment, or would you reach out to her and let her know that, for example, maybe Annie, I mean, I'm not telling you what to do, but maybe let her know that there is a strategic plan survey.
If you read the full email, the response that was given to that person via the online platform where they commented was to fill out the community survey.
Okay,
So
perfect.
the person has already been informed.
Wonderful,
Yes.
okay, because I think it's important to get everybody's input, especially if you have to
Oh,
dig
absolutely.
it out of Facebook, All
I
right.
agree.
All
Well,
right, thank you so much.
It's something that I learned too, that Carolyn was, we did respond to that, but I did notice there were other comments on different groups and, on Facebook, but we only respond, as a library, only to our post, correct? Is that what so we only respond
For
to
our
our
own
post,
accounts.
not on posts on like the Niles Journal site and things like that?
Oh, no, I agree, I just thought even catching this was good.
Yeah, it was great,
Thank you so much, thank you, Annie.
by Annie, our marketing department.
All right, that's all I have.
Okay. Ready, Margaret?
I want to clarify how we're going to.
The motion was to approve consent agenda. The rest of the discussion didn't change any of the motion.
No, it didn't.
So we can just leave
Just,
the
yeah,
whole
leave
list
it
in
as
there?
is.
Excellent. So again, just,
I had to say all that.
So Jason, did you want to go over the list, or you want
No,
me to just
no,
list
no,
it?
it's a consent agenda.
It is
So-
what it is.
The consent agenda includes approval of minutes, payment of the bills, treasurer's report, trustee reports, executive director's report, communications, and committee reports. Okay, I will take, and that was motioned by Vice President Trunco, seconded by
Suzanne.
yes, trustee Schoenfeld, and let's see, am I in the right spot? Okay. Trustee Durban, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Thank you. Treasurer Vitello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trunco?
Yes.
And President Keane.
Yes.
6-0 passes.
I'd like to make a motion on the proposed revisions of policy 3.02, patron code of conduct.
Second.
Can you please clarify, is it a motion to approve?
Yes, I apologize. I'd like to make a motion to approve the
Thank you.
proposed revisions to policy 3.02, patrons code of conduct.
Any discussion? This is just what we have discussed
We
for the past
discussed
two
it at
meetings,
the
and
other
just with the
meeting.
changes approved by Dennis, and that we also talked about at the last meeting, so. Okay, I guess we're ready for a vote.
Okay, so we have Vice President Trunco motioned and President Keane seconded. And Trustee Dublik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Treasurer Vitello?
Yes.
Secretary
Yes.
Rosansky? Vice President Trunco?
Yes.
President Keane?
Yes.
6-0 passes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed revisions of policy 3.14, meeting and study rooms.
Second. That was me.
Any discussion? Okay, Mark?
So Vice President Trunco motioned, Secretary Rosansky seconded. And Trustee Dublik, how do you vote?
No.
No? Okay. Secretary, or Treasurer?
No.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Trustee Schoenfeld, no? Excellent. Threw me off. Treasurer Vitello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trunco?
Yes.
President Keane?
Yes.
4-2 passes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a proposal to award an $89,000 contract from the library's capital expenditure special reserve building fund to Product Architecture and Design for architectural and engineering services for the lower level remodel.
Second. Questions or comments?
I have a comment. After the last board meeting, I went through the year-end statistics reports, year-end and, no, calendar year and fiscal year. And then I saw this month's statistics. And the patron attendance is still low, and I can't justify these costly construction renovations. So when I saw those numbers, so I am concerned that I'm not sure what figures we're looking at, but we don't have the consistency, I think, to pursue this. So that just came to my attention because I spent a week going through all of them.
So the big numbers that we looked at was last month, we received the numbers of how many people used Makerspace, how many classes were sold out, and the amount of people that were on wait list, not even including people that called about it separately, that just weren't on the wait list. And that would have brought in over 1,000 people more to the library if we had a bigger space.
Plus the study room information.
Plus the study room information that we received, how many study rooms, plus the fact that by doing this with the retractable wall downstairs, will give us a second larger commons area to hold bigger events as well in those areas. So while it's an expense, again, we have money, it's to be used to make the library a better place for our community, and this enriches the study rooms because we have children who need that. Everybody who needs it. People, I don't want to single out children, but the makerspace is so packed that we have things that are selling, that are filling up within the first hour of being open. And then there's a wait list, and those people can't get in.
That was brought up last month.
Correct, so those were the numbers that we used to look at when we were looking at this. The
But
overall, hold on one second, the overall statistics of the library is not something that we were looking at for that particular area
I
because.
wasn't looking at that either.
Okay, so what were you
The
looking at?
continuity over the 3 years is not there for this. I mean, you had a great run and what was brought up at the last meeting was something that happened, but it doesn't happen consistently.
Well, it's happened over the last 2 years of the cycle that we have, so that's 2 fiscal years.
When I went through the 2 fiscal years and calendar years, the numbers weren't there. When you
two-
look at
you have
her
two fiscal- the
different
two-
line
The
items.
2 fiscal years of makerspace and study rooms is on those papers. I'm not talking about the 2 fiscal years for the whole library. Yes,
No,
pre-COVID,
I'm not either.
pre-COVID, we're still down, but post-COVID,
I
we're
went
way
3
up.
years back to be similar to what the discussion
Where
was
did you get that
last
third year of
month.
information for makerspace?
It's on the library website. It's a strategic,
Okay,
plans, they're all there. You just have to go every month or for the end of the year, the fiscal year and the calendar
got
year.
it, okay.
But
Well,
that's what I'm saying, I didn't see consistency but if this is something that you find is what we should be doing instead of whatever else could be done, that's your call. I'm just saying,
No,
that's what I
I
saw.
was just answering where the numbers came from
Yeah.
for this. That, the numbers
Right,
were given
right.
to us last month by
Yes,
Sarah, so.
exactly, so that's what
She's
prompted me
downstairs
to
too,
look at
With
everything,
Ann.
yeah.
Oh, not with Ann. I'm sorry.
Thank you, though, I
Ann, you go
appreciate
ahead.
that.
Anyone else? Okay, Margaret.
So I have Vice President Trunco motion, President Keane seconded. Trustee Triplet, how do you vote?
A no.
Trustee Schoenfeld?
No.
Treasurer Vitello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trunco?
Yes.
President Keane.
Yes.
6-2 passes.
So new business. All right, so we're on to new business.
It was 4-2 that passes.
42,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm sorry, you said 6.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was counting that to the total.
There was a lot of discussion. Yeah.
Okay, so I added an agenda item a little bit late in the game because it didn't actually happen until late Friday after this was already out. So 6A is ALA, American Library Association, response to the White House announcement. So late Friday, an executive order came out that is going to be, I don't want to, that it calls for the elimination of the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the nation's only federal agency for America's libraries. And I wanted to have this on the agenda because as trustees, one of our main responsibilities is to advocate for libraries. And I know that Valerie did email it to us, but we get a lot of emails and I wanted to make sure we all see it and hear it in case you missed your email.
So how are we supposed to respond?
So I'm just gonna read it into the record, and then we can, if you have a question like that, we can,
Okay.
it might answer your question while I read it, I guess is what I'm
Okay,
trying to
fine.
say. Okay. So the response from ALA was that Americans have loved and relied on public school and academic libraries for generations. By eliminating the only federal agency dedicated to funding library services, the Trump administration's executive order is cutting off at the knees the most beloved and trusted of American institutions and the staff and services they offer, namely early literacy development and grade-level reading programs, summer reading programs for kids, high-speed internet access, employment assistance for job seekers, Braille and talking books for people with visual impairments, homework and research resources for students and faculty, veterans telehealth spaces equipped with technology and staff support, STEM programs, simulation equipment, and training for workforce development, small business support for budding entrepreneurs. To dismiss some 75 committed workers and mission of an agency that advances opportunity and learning is to dismiss the aspirations and everyday needs of millions of Americans. And those who will feel that loss most keenly live in rural communities. As seedbeds of literacy and innovation, our nation's 125,000 public school and academic and special libraries deserve more, not less support. Libraries of all types translate 0.003% of the federal budget into programs and services used in more than 1.2 billion in-person patron visits every year and many more virtual visits. The American Library Association implores President Trump to reconsider this short-sighted decision. We encourage U.S. Congress members, senators, and decision makers at every level of government to visit the libraries that serve their constituents and urge the White House to spare the modest federal funding for America's libraries. And we call on Americans who value reading, learning, and enrichment to reach out to their elected leaders and show up for our libraries at library and school meetings, town halls, and everywhere decisions are made about libraries. So I just wanted to make sure that we all knew what was going on, since we are all advocates of the library. We don't know exactly how it's going to impact our library or libraries in Illinois yet. But if there's more, Valerie and I both have been looking into this a little bit more, and Rails has put out a little podcast with more information. I think you got more information from.
ALA sent out an FAQ list with more information about how this might impact library services, and the call for advocacy asks people to reach out to their local congresspeople to advocate for libraries. So if you happen to have ties with local congresspeople, or even if you don't, ALA has a form letter that you can email to your congresspeople. They can provide you the phone numbers to call if you would prefer to call. And so it's just a call to action in support of libraries. There's also a section on their advocacy site to share your library stories and how libraries have positively impacted your life, your community. I actually was given permission to share this story from one of our local patrons that told me that recently their father was put into hospice. And unrelated, one of their father's closest friends, who they hadn't talked to in a long time, reached out to them because they heard about this person's work at the library and use of the library as a volunteer helping us out. And they were like, oh, I'm so proud of the work you're doing at the library. How's your dad? And so while the dad is in hospice dealing with this challenging health situation, he was able to reconnect with this close friend, in part because of the library and the positive impact of the library connecting our community. So I thought that was a wonderful story to share.
Thank you. Thank you. So there's no action on that item, it's just.
I would like to
Yeah,
make
sure.
a
Thank
comment.
you.
I'm going to suggest, so earlier we spoke with regards to some detail about how we can integrate more of our community, our library within the community and the residents and the business here. So I would like for us to really take to heart and meet and put on the agenda those discussions that would open up new opportunities for us with regards to engaging more of the community and bring them in. And for us to reach out to the community, community groups, into how they can become and feel more vested into what's going on here. I know that patrons that come in love our staff. They do a lot of great work. And I would like for us to, going back to what was said earlier with regards to the spending and how we're spending, to think about, could we bring about some changes so that we can draw the business community into our library? And by that I mean something as simple as purchasing, something as simple as using our space. So let's seriously consider putting this topic into our future agendas so that we'll take the dedicated time and really speak on these issues, because it's important that we build community. I would hate for us to have a community that doesn't feel vested. You hear about it in the news and they could easily dismiss it. I would rather have our whole community rally behind all the changes that we've made to this library and the many changes that we hope to implement in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.
To piggyback on something what Roberto just said, I think that's a great idea. I think in town, we've just seen the mayor held 2 town halls. I don't think that would be I don't think we should be against having something like that here at the library on behalf of the library. I was there with Annie from marketing, and we met a lot of people. A lot of people stopped by, and Annie was able to meet a lot of different elected officials that I'm not sure she had met before, and we had a lot of them take the QR code and scan it and take the survey right then and there. So, I think that's a great idea to open all the library doors, and for us as a board to make sure that we're there to talk to people if they have any questions. I think it's a great idea.
I do too, especially while we have the survey up for our strategic planning. Annie and I actually were also talking about having maybe a come in for pizza if you fill out our survey, and you can talk to either a board member or a library administrator or staff, or so that we can really talk to you and engage you. We could also do some out in the community as well in different areas. Our strategic planning consultant has advised us, but we really need your help as the board, because you have the best connections within the community for us to rely on. So I would love to talk more about that with the board, how we can do it.
You can actually do work with the park in reference to that, and they have utilize their gym, and have an open gym session, and have new card holders and everybody and new families come in as well
That would be great.
to
Thank you.
actually utilize that.
Senior center as well.
Definitely the senior centers, especially depending on the events.
But
The
what they-
turnout there sometimes is unbelievable.
What we really need to do is focus on the podcasts as well, and focus on that, and just say, this is our concern, we need new ideas, we need your ideas to help it make it grow. And that's
Absolutely.
what we need to have. So,
I have a question regarding this item. We received an email from Valerie, and it gives us just a couple of sentences directly from the executive order, which I think is helpful. It says that the non-statutory components and functions of the following governmental entities shall be eliminated to the maximum extent consistent with applicable law. What do we do in a library that is considered non-statutory components?
They have not given any detailed information on that.
No, but I'm thinking, we have statutes and we're bound by them. We should look into this, because I'm wondering, we've got these responses from ILA or ALA, and they're mentioning all the wonderful things we do, but I'm not so sure all those wonderful things are impacted, because you have to use the executive order to find out exactly what's being eliminated, and non-statutory components is something we can get right out of the Illinois statutes. And that would maybe ease everyone's concerns to some degree. Those are just responses.
I would assume ILA and ALA have looked at whatever and tried to go into it as much as they could, because this affects all libraries.
It does,
So-
but it's general, and I think we
Well-
need to lower the volume on inflammatory rhetoric and try to provide the public with facts, and it says right here.
If
any
the facts aren't
inflammatory
given
rhetoric.
to us,
Oh,
the
I've
public
read all
then-
these letters from these different organizations.
So all we
We're
provided
making
here
a-
tonight was a response from the American Library Association.
Right, and what I'm trying to say is, sometimes we're making these assumptions that all of this is going to disappear. We should just follow
And
what
all
the
we
executive
did was
order
say
states.
that, I just shared this so that the board was aware, and made a point of saying that we don't know exactly how this is going to affect us. And if you would like more information, Valerie and I are happy to send you some links. That's all.
Could you get us a link to this, to the statutory
I
components
don't
of our
have a link to
library?
that. Maybe you could look. I don't have a link to that. What I offered was the Rails Minute, and Valerie had more information from the American Library Association.
Well, honestly, going through the Illinois statutes is like a needle in the haystack. If you have a connection, it's faster. But I'm saying if we could just get to the root of what we actually, what our statutory requirements are, it may help us. It's just something I wanted to bring up.
Just to
But thank you.
clarify for the public and the board, this executive order applies only to federal institutions, which includes the Institute of Museum and Library Services. It does not directly affect our library. It does-
Thank you.
At this point.
Well, so if the Institute of Museum and Library Services was cut for whatever reason, which we do not know, and we are not making that statement that it is, but if it were, some of that funding, roughly 10% of the funding for the state library in Illinois, it comes from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And if that funding is cut, that could trickle down into the libraries in Illinois. But again, we do not have that information, which is we did not share. We are just
Thank you.
sharing a call to action in support of libraries and the Institute for Museum and Library
Right,
Services.
and whether that is, you know, for our library or for another library that is a rural library that will be affected, you know, if you are an advocate for libraries, then you are an advocate for all libraries.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so the next item for new business is 6B.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a proposal for the library to re-engage Frederick Quinn Corporation for construction manager services for the lower level remodel.
Put them out. Did you see them out?
There's no,
And not on B, there's not.
Okay.
Is there a second?
There is 12.
There's
That's
12,000.
that's for C.
Oh,
That's
that's
for
for
C.
it.
I
Sorry.
second B.
Thank you.
Well, then I'm looking at the wrong agenda. Because I know you gave me new agenda. On my B, it has,
Sorry.
Yes, the
And
new
that's C
agenda
on this
lowers
agenda.
everything.
Sorry.
Yes.
I went according to my original agenda. That's why I was questioning.
B, which was.
Okay, so what page do we, anybody have what?
56.
56, thank you. Okay. Vice President Trunko motioned and I seconded. Is there discussion?
I have a question. What specifically are we approving? Rich, do you mind?
Sure, absolutely. Good evening, board. What the board is being asked is, as an institution, who will be our general contractor, our general manager for the project downstairs. We have an architect that we re-engaged, that being Product Architecture. They went through, gave us preliminaries, came up with several options. Last time, the board narrowed that down. This evening, the board had approved the payment for those services, the architectural and engineering services. The general contractor services are the next step, so we need to engage with general contractors. We have one that we engaged in 2013 to do the roof remodel. We continued a relationship with that general contractor, Frederick Quinn Corporation. Every 5 years, they come out and they update the facility assessment. I want to apologize, I just reread my memo, and although it does say June 2014, which was the second time they had done an update, since then they did a 2019 and a June 2024 update to that, which is going to be used for our capital needs assessment project. The benefit of going with someone that the library continues to have a relationship with is we do not have to then go out to do an RFP and interview candidates and then decide. They roughly all do the same thing. There's the same kind of cost involved. We have the ongoing relationship. Product Architecture continues to work with them, and it recommends them, so they have ongoing jobs with them, as with other general contractors as well. So the recommendation from the library is that we continue to work with them, so we need the board to allow us to re-engage. The next step would be then to get a proposal from them for the cost, and then come to the board and say, this is the cost, is, to approve a contract so that we can enter into a contract, just like you did with Product Architecture.
So this is just so that way we can engage them in the conversation to get that.
The board has to do that, not, the staff can't do that unless the board directs us to.
Absolutely. Got it.
So is the board involved with this decision because the cost for Frederick Quinn to be the general manager is over the allowable amount?
So the allowable amount for a library to make decisions is $10,000.
Right.
So,
You're expecting it to be more than 10,000?
yes, considering when we had the Product Architecture indicate that their fee is about 10%, which was technically somewhere north of 95, you're approved 89, so they gave us a discount on that. I noticed. That's why we didn't have an exact number for once
Do we have any
Appreciate that.
idea what he is anticipating?
I don't know. We'd have to take a look, maybe Phil,
Okay.
base it off of the estimate, just like product architecture.
I do have one question. I noticed that you re-engaged with Frederick Quinn, and I understand because they've been here for years. I was wondering why we didn't go with the company who has done our assessments all these years.
So Frederick Quinn is one of the two companies that
Right.
do the assessments.
But no, the company that comes out here and goes through the entire building and gives you a report on every single item.
There's two
Who were
companies.
they? What was their name?
One company is this company. Frederick
Right, I
Quinn
know this
Corporation.
one.
They do the site and grounds, and then the mechanical engineering, plumbing, and fire
Mhm.
protection is Taylor Design.
Yes,
And
are-
they continue to work with us as well.
So they will be part of all of this new,
I can't say whether the architect will continue to use them as the engineer. I would imagine so, considering they.
I was just curious because I know we've used them and it helps when someone's been here over and over again. Okay,
So we don't, in this case, we don't have to hire the engineering firm directly, because
Mhm.
product architecture is gonna do the architect and engineering services. I would imagine that they will outsource the engineering, because they primarily do the architecture and design, to an engineering firm. I don't know, but I would imagine it would be tailored based on the fact that they have all the plans and they continue to work with us on an engineering level,
great.
you know, over these years.
All right, thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you, Rich.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Okay, Margaret.
Trustee Strickland, how do you vote?
No.
Trustee Schoenfeld?
No.
Treasurer Battello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trunko?
Yes.
President Keane?
Yes.
4-2 passes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a proposal to award a $12,500 contract from the library's Capital Expenditures Special Reserve Building Fund to Product Architecture Plus Design for a capital needs assessment.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay,
So Vice President Trunko motion, Secretary Rosansky seconded. And Trustee Strickland, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Treasurer Battello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trunko?
Yes.
President Keane?
yes.
6-0 passes.
I'd like to make a motion a motion to approve the proposed library DEI statement.
Second.
Any questions?
I have a question, maybe I need, if somebody could explain it. We're calling, this is going to be a statement that's going to be all over the library, which represents how inclusive we are and welcoming to everyone. That's what we're approving here, and it's going to be published, that's our point.
That's what it says, published on
Okay,
the
so my
library website.
question is, it's really regarding how welcoming we are to the community. What throws me is that we call it a DEI. Now, my experience with the DEI is that is strictly regarding personnel, employees, hiring. So I'm trying to figure out where we get the diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because when we have people coming into the library, we don't utilize equity. Like if those two came in the library, would we say, oh, no more of you, we need two more something else? I mean, equity is what you do when you hire people. So how do you explain equity? What is equitable about being welcoming to everybody?
I don't really think I understand your question.
Okay,
No,
what
you know
does,
what?
what does equity in DEI represent from us? When, you know, I'm trying to understand, like, we're welcoming
doesn't
to
mean-
everyone.
So it's not just about staff, right? Which is
No,
one
it's
of the
not
things-
at all
but
about
you just said
staff.
that it was all about staff.
No.
Well, it's utilized in HR most of the time, so I'm trying to understand how we're
So-
using that for our, reaching out to our
For
community.
example, providing programming on different cultures or programs on different
So
like, if
that's
we have a
in
holy
different
program,
languages.
that's diverse, right? And that's making things equitable for people of different backgrounds. Valerie, you were gonna,
Okay.
because I'm flabbergasted by
thanks.
this.
Some of our initiatives that try to make access to library resources more equitable include ADA modifications on our website
Okay.
so that people with vision impairment still can access the
Okay.
information on our website.
Thanks.
Or in the future, we have plans to modify our desks to make them raise or lower so that people who have mobility devices have better access. Our
Okay.
Library of Things offers internet access to people who may live somewhere where they don't have internet access or can't afford it by lending out hotspots. So that would.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just couldn't get it to work.
Oh,
Okay, thank
absolutely.
you for explaining.
I'd like to read just for the video, the actual statement. So this statement was crafted collaboratively by our anti-racism committee, and I want to thank the staff for that because I think it
Great
was
job.
beautifully written.
Yeah.
And it says, "We are committed to actively fostering an inclusive, welcoming environment where everyone belongs at the Niles Main District Library. This public space is dedicated to engaging, informing, enriching, and educating our community. We uphold the right to free expression while prioritizing respect, safety, and dignity for all. Libraries are places where diverse perspectives spark meaningful conversations, and we encourage that engagement to promote empathy, strengthen relationships, and build a more connected, equitable community."
I'd like to also thank the staff for putting that together. It's very well done.
Yes, it is an excellent statement. They did an incredible job. Thank you to everyone on that committee.
So are we ready for a vote then? Go ahead, Beth. Yep.
Vice President Trumka motion, Secretary Rosansky, excuse me, seconded, and Trustee Dubakari vote.
Yes.
Trustee Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Treasurer Battello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trumka?
Yes.
President King?
Yes.
6-0 passes.
I'd like to make a motion to add the Sunday before Memorial Day and the Sunday before Labor Day to policy 4.07 holidays and closing as days the library is closed but not paid staff holidays.
Second.
I don't know how we missed that. When I read this, I'm like, oh God, all the time we spent on this.
The only comment that I have is, the only concern that I have with the Sunday before Memorial Day is that is typically around the end of the school year. And with the study rooms and the need, the finals and things of that nature, it just worries me that we're gonna take a resource away from people who may need it with that.
Not been open on that day for at least 30 years, according to the staff. We've never been open on these days, we've just
Yeah.
never had it in policy that we are closed.
My concern is no longer valid.
Well, I
I'm
think
good.
it is still valid, it's just that.
It is
we
a
don't
valid
know whether
concern.
it's-
Yes.
But we're not taking anything away, and we have not
just-
gotten requests to open on those days.
Okay.
So it's a fair question.
Sounds good to me.
Anyone else?
Vice President Trumka motion, Secretary Rosansky seconded. Trustee Dubakari vote.
Yes.
Trustee
Yes.
Schoenfeld? Treasurer Battello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trumka?
Yes.
And President King?
Yes.
6-0 passes.
Is there any other?
I just have one thing for other, if I may. One of the things in our library highlights was about our volunteers that we did have. We had 39 teen volunteers and 1 adult volunteer for Fandom Fest alone. While we have a wonderful staff, and we definitely can't get any of this done without our staff, we also can't get it done without the volunteers that we have in the community. There were teenagers and kids, and it was fun to see some of them struggle to interact and understand how to do things, and then it was great seeing them figure it out and work with staff and the patrons as well. So please, if you have time to volunteer, even if it's an hour, come out, help the library, learn a little bit more about the library. It's a great experience.
And it's fun.
It's definitely fun.
Some of our teen volunteers got to wear costumes of the Among Us, like the inflatable costumes.
They did.
They were hilarious.
Yes, they were.
I'd like to make the motion.
Does anyone else
Sorry.
have other?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the March 19th meeting at 8:17 PM.
Second.
Second.
All
I
in
beat you.
favor?
Aye.
Yay.
Let's do it.